Thanks for listening to DIY for Business. It's Russ and Greg with you. Greg, how's it going?
It's going really well, Russ. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. I'm still recovering a little bit from Vegas. It's,
I mean, that's probably pretty common response for people that visit Vegas.
yeah. Well, it was pretty fun. Like I did a little convention thing, right? I did a speech that worked really well. I did some jokes. I did some shtick, if you will. Got some laughs, which I felt good about. And then gave some information. The nice thing about that I feel like making a joke, getting a couple of laughs, I feel like it makes me more approachable afterwards. Because people
Oh,
see a
yeah.
little bit of the personality, so they're coming up to me.
Yes.
It must have worked because, oh man, that's what I was tired from. I didn't do the partying thing. I talked to so many people for so many hours for 3 days at this convention thing, and I was just done at the end of it. Um, so that was that. But then my brother lives out in Vegas. So
Right.
the end of that third day, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Come pick me up. Let's hang out. He's like, okay, I got the night planned for us. Okay, let's let's
A
do it.
night in Vegas, right? Two
A
guys
night
in
in
Vegas.
Vegas. Exactly. There's plenty of stories about that start that way. Uh, So, he doesn't want to do the typical Vegas thing because we've both done that, right? So, we actually got in his little, I don't know what these things are called, like not an ATV, but something like that.
Hmm.
And at 7 o'clock at night, we're cruising through the desert. It was so cool. Like,
Oh, that's really fun.
we're like bouncing up and down and just doing it was
Was it
crazy. We
still
got up to
light at that time or was it
it
dark
was
already?
still it was still a little light, so we get to the
Okay.
top of the mountain just as the sun is setting over the Vegas. Like, so we see like this beautifully lit, Vegas. All the buildings in the background, the strip in the
Hmm.
background. It looked fantastic. So I sat on top of a mountain in a desert with like goggles and a funky hat thing that I had to wear, uh, and checked out Vegas from a point where I've never seen it before. It was really cool. And then we stayed out there, and then we're cruising through the desert at night with these lights on this thing, like
Right.
going. I don't know. It felt
Did
fast.
you
I don't
feel
know how
like
fast
you
it was
were in
going.
any danger? Because I have been on an ATV before, and I was in Mexico doing it, and this was before I drank, right? So I was
Okay. Right.
cruising, and I was on a tour, and they took us down this cliff, and I'm going,
Yes.
this does not look safe, but you had to get down this cliff to get to the beach,
Uh-huh.
and you get to cruise your ATV in this riverbed and this beach and everything. It's really really fun. But I'm going, I'm in trouble. As I was inching my way down this cliff, I'm going, I am
Uh-huh.
in trouble.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had that same thing happen to me as we were also like going down a cliff, like this, it like dipped down, and so as we're going down, I'm like, oh, I'm like
And
screaming and all this.
considering it's at night, I'm assuming you're going down at night because you're returning.
Well, so this was on the way out, so I actually saw what was going on because it was still sunny. Then we get out to this mountain thing. Now we went all the way out from Henderson all the way out to just above the Lake Mead, right?
Uh-huh.
So we can see the
Oh,
bodies
did you
because
see the
the,
dry
the
Lake
water's
Mead?
really low. Oh my God, it's so low, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So we get up top, and as we're going up top, like you get up there, you get top, there's a little flat area, and then there's a drop down to the lake. That was pretty scary too. I was like, oh my God, that was crazy. That was crazy.
That's
Um,
fun. That's fun
but
though. You're
yeah,
here to talk about it, so it must have been
I
fun.
made it through. But you know what I did do at one point? Because once we got up to that top of that thing, that's when it got a little bit weird, right? Because I'm like, where the heck are we? Right? So I, s- I did a screenshot of the map of where we were, and I
Uh-huh.
sent it to my wife. I'm like, just in case you need to find me at some point,
Right.
you know,
Right.
like here's where I am. Because it's so quiet, it's so dark, and it's like you're just out in the middle of, like, literally middle of
What
nowhere.
So you took a
Uh,
picture and you sent it to your wife, but did you have cell service for it to get out?
I did actually have self service,
Okay. Okay.
which was kind of crazy and amazing. I think it was because maybe I don't know. I don't know how this whole cell thing works, but we were up high, so maybe I was. I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk somehow was involved in this. I don't know, but
I think
we did.
he focuses more on underground tunnels in Las Vegas than
That's true. That's
top of
true.
mountains.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I'm still recovering a little bit from that, just because it was a long weekend. Didn't get a lot of sleep because we were hanging out. I hadn't seen my brother in a long time, so that was really cool. The other thing, though, like while I was there in Vegas, was I was catching up on some emails and whatnot, and I hear you did the same. So that's brings us to this show here where we don't have a guest, but we kind of do because you're kind of the guest, the people that are listening right now.
All our listeners are the guests today.
Exactly. So we've had people where we say at the end of this podcast, hey, if you've got questions, we can build an entire episode around it. Well, that's sort of what this is. We're building an entire episode around some of the questions that we received. So we're taking some of the highlights of these questions, and we'll do some answers, but also we'll of course turn some of these into episodes as we roll along here. So I'm going to say, Greg, because I did this in Vegas, you did this at home. You probably did a better job. So maybe we should hit one of your questions first, and not lead
I
off
mean,
on
it's all
one of
perspective,
mine.
Russ. So who knows
Right,
what you consider better
right.
job? Yeah, yours might be more
I,
entertaining. I don't know,
I don't know. My
but
first one is
these
how
are
many
from
gin
guests.
and
So
tonic.
first of all, let me thank everybody for sending in their questions because at every episode we say, hey, send us questions. We may turn it into an episode. Well, here we go. First question that I get very often actually when I'm reading it, and we get our questions from LinkedIn, we get them from Twitter, we get them from a lot of different ways, but
Mhm.
so this question has come multiple times and from different mediums. What types of businesses have you guys owned? We kind of talk
Oh,
about owning businesses in the past, but we've never
yeah.
really, or maybe we did it at the very beginning. We never really detailed the different businesses
It's
that we've owned.
it's probably one of those hidden,
It might
those
be,
hidden
might
things,
be.
right? Because our first few of these podcasts were not that great, so those are
But
hidden shows.
Russ,
So
why don't you start? Talk a little bit about the businesses that you've owned.
yeah, well, geez, okay, I'm gonna go way back. I'm gonna go way back to, and this wasn't really a business, but this was something that I came up with when I was a kid. I actually, I noticed that, like, we were reading like all of these books and whatnot, and the weekly reader people used to give us bookmarks. This one year they didn't. I was like, oh shoot, this is an opportunity here, and I'm in, like, I don't know, fourth grade or something. So what I did was I bought some, or I got somehow, I don't know, I acquired, probably, my mom probably went to the store and bought some construction paper and some stamps. And so I made my own bookmarks and did these little stamps on them with, like, little sayings on them and little, I don't know, probably Pac-Man on it or something.
That's cool. How old were you?
This was like fourth grade, maybe. This
Okay.
was really
Okay.
young. And I sold them for, I believe, three for a quarter. And people bought them. I made money.
You made money. Hey, that's the thing, right?
And
You
so,
made money as your first job more than most people do in their fifth job,
yeah, right, exactly.
right?
Well,
Or their
so
fifth company.
I did that, and then uh, I wanted to make more, so I actually hired somebody to cut the paper and do the stamps. These little kids down the street from me, that like younger than me. So they were doing the work, and I was doing the sale, and I was paying them. I forget what I made a margin, so it was good.
So this is the first example of you scaling your business.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
scaled at
scaled.
fourth grade.
I scaled in elementary school. I can't, and yeah, yeah. It was crazy. So that was. I'm going to count that as my first business.
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And
As
then
long as the
what's
IRS is not listening right now, you're good.
exactly, exactly. Well, what's nice to see is my son is actually doing that now. He's not the bookmarks, but he bought some gum on Amazon and he's selling it. And we haven't bought him lunch, but we gave him lunch money once. Like he's selling gum in school, and now he's known as the gum guy. It's like it's like
He's
it's
the
pretty
gum guy.
cool that he's doing that. So it's like it's kind of neat to see it. I saw it from firsthand, and now I'm seeing it as a parent. It's pretty cool.
Speaking of
Um,
Amazon, speaking of
yeah.
Amazon, we need to
Uh-huh.
do an episode on people reselling product on Amazon because I just landed up buying
Oh, yeah.
something from Amazon, and when I
Mhm.
received it, I realized it was actually from another site, another company that they just resold it through Amazon. And when I was buying it from Amazon, I did nowhere could I find that it was coming from a secondary source. It looked like I was buying it directly from Amazon. And
Mhm.
I'm pretty
Mhm.
savvy to that. And I was like, okay, how did that happen? And the only reason I know is because the other company had a label on one of the products that I bought.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how all of that, there's a whole like bunch of stuff to talk about around that, like the whole drop shipping thing and all of that. So we gotta jump on that show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the first real business that actually like paid the rent and whatnot was I started an entertainment company. So I was working in radio, and this one of the other DJs was like, "Hey, I've got a gig. It's an in person DJ gig where I got to go play music at a bowling alley." I'm like, okay. He's like, I can't do it. Can you do it for me? And he's like, they'll just pay you directly. It's fine. Like, I don't even have to take a cut. They'll just pay you. I can't do it. I've never done this before. Like, well, you do it here all the time. It's just instead of talking to walls, you're talking to people. Oh, okay. So
Was it a guy named that was called Dude that asked you to do this at the bowling alley? Just curious.
uh, what was this guy's name? I can't remember his name, but
Oh,
it was a radio. It was a total radio name.
okay.
you know, like one of those funky radio names. Um, that was probably made up, like Steve Van Zant or Steve Van Horn or Steve Von Saint
Pin.
John or something,
Von
right?
Pins.
Von Penn, yeah, like
Von Strike. Von Strike
they have
that's
the
strong.
made up
That's
names.
strong.
Yeah. So I did it, and I was like, okay, this is pretty easy. Like this is kind of cool. And then I decided to actually start a business. So then I started, just doing this as a little side hustle. I took it to actually like, I was ranked as one of the top 5 entertainment companies in the Bay Area, and we did, you know, um, I had 13 DJs at my prime, going out and doing their thing. I had a couple of people doing casino nights. I had, a pianist and harpist and all these like lighting that I would do and all that stuff. And we did. I think at our peak it was about 500 events in a year or something like that. I'd have to
That's a
check the
lot.
numbers, but we
Yeah.
did a ton of events, and it was like okay, it paid the bills and it allowed me to do it. But then I had kids, and I was like, I got to sell this thing because I don't know if I can do both because it's working weekends, it's working nights, it's working like I would never see the kids with the way that I was running that business, even if I stepped back and I tried everything to try to keep it, but then decided to sell it. And so sold it, and now that's part of the college fund for the kids. That'll pay for at least one class
Yeah.
with the way the college prices are. But did that. Now, there was a couple of other random little businesses. There was one that I did a spinoff of the wedding thing because I was so upset with how much people were paying for, like, or people were charging rather for advertising a wedding business. And I'm like, okay, well, wait a second. I should be upset about this. I should actually just do something about it. So I started a wedding directory, got all
Mm,
my fellow vendors on it, and we uh, went in together to try to get other people on it. So we just try to, like we're pulling people on it. We got some paying contracts and whatnot. It was working out well, and then that one I decided just to pull back from because it was like, okay, this is going to take a lot of time, and it was towards the end of my entertainment business when I was about to sell. So I also sold that when I sold my business as well. So it was those were the big ones. There's been a bunch of other little random stuff that have happened, but you on the other hand have had a bunch of businesses that. But guess what, Greg? We got
what's
to talk
that?
about this business that we've got right now because we've got to pay these bills as well for the whole podcast
We
thing.
got some
So
business to take care of. Is that what you're saying?
exactly. So we're going to take a short break here, and we'll continue answering some other questions. I took up the whole thing there. When we come back, we're going to hear about Greg's business ownership experiences, and we'll do that right after this. Thanks for listening and subscribing. Oh, and reviewing DIY for Business, a part of the Best Business Network and Electrocast Media. It's Russ and Greg with you. We're doing a show that we've promised, I don't know, for the last 60 episodes or so, DIY, where we've talked about getting your feedback. And yes, we get feedback all the time. And, it's kind of cool to actually dedicate a show to this. And we're talking about, here's the problem with Greg and I. We've known each other for a long time, and we feel like, I feel like I could say anything to Greg, and so it's like one of those things where uh, maybe we'll get to two questions just because we're talking about all these things. I think we'll get some more, but we'll see. Maybe this has to be a multi. But Greg, the first question that we asked is, or that a listener asked, was about which types of businesses we have owned, and I talked about my businesses. Let's hear about your businesses.
Okay. Well, since you started with the unofficial business, and we've talked about this slightly on another episode, I may have allegedly potentially have sold fireworks as an elementary school kid. I don't know. Yes, I made money, but I guess maybe some. I don't know.
Right, right. And
I don't know. I don't know. Am I allowed to? I still don't know if I'm allowed to talk about
yeah,
that. So
yeah. I
anyway,
think there's just some sort of statute of limitation. I don't know. Maybe.
maybe we need to edit that out. I don't know. Okay. But the first real business. So out of college, I worked for a high tech company, and I was working in the sales department. And I saw an opportunity for a little side hustle where a lot of my clients, we were a manufacturing company, so this didn't have any conflict with the company, but a lot of my clients were looking for lead gen. They needed more business. They needed to, find clients. I knew how to do that through different resources that I had. So I started my own company as a lead gen consultant, had a number of different clients, and that was going really, really well. In fact, my biggest client was out of Austin, and they go, Greg, you're doing so well. Why don't you just come work for us full time in our sales department? And, I think, we're going to pay you Silicon Valley prices to come out to Austin. And this is back when Austin wasn't Austin yet, wasn't the
Right,
tech, you
right.
know, giant that is growing to be right now, or already is.
Yeah.
So they flew me out with my girlfriend, who at the time is now my wife, and they're showing us homes. I mean, the homes you could buy in
Oh, they're
Austin, brand
amazing out there.
new,
Right.
were huge for like, I don't know, a tenth of the price it was costing in the Bay Area in the Silicon Valley. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so tempting. They entertained us. They took us out to this great nightclub one night. Actually, it was the last night before we were leaving. Let's hit go out with a boom. Let's really entertain them and take them out drinking and dancing and food and the whole bit. And while we're out there dancing, we realized as we were leaving that my wallet got stolen out of my wife's purse. Well, my girlfriend's purse at
Oh,
the time, but out of her purse. As you can imagine, we're in Austin. I lost my ID, lost my credit cards, cash, all this kind of stuff. How do I get home?
yeah.
All that.
Uh-huh.
This was a sign. Do not take this job. So once we finally got home, I had to decline and tell him I was not going to take the position. But listen to the universe when the universe talks to you,
Yeah,
because
totally.
within a couple of years after that, that company no longer existed. Now maybe
Wow.
it would have changed if I went to go work for them, but whatever. So that was
Yeah.
the first job. Then
What year was that?
that was 1993.
Okay. Okay. So the thing is, Franklin Barbecue didn't open up until 2009. So it's probably best. Yeah, that's probably why you took the job.
I would have had to gone about 16 years without ever trying
Yeah.
Franklin barbecue.
Oh man. Yeah. No, it's good that you didn't take it.
So the next business, I was in Silicon Valley, where I was working tech, doing sales, and I just wanted to get out. Right? It was just, I just felt like the rat race was just getting to me. I wasn't terribly happy anymore after doing it for a while. So I went into the golf industry, and I started a custom built golf club store. Like we would actually custom build golf clubs. We'd measure your swings. We'd figure out what was the best clubs. We were building fantastic clubs for people at a fraction of the prices that they would have to pay from, a big box store to buy
Hmm.
their clubs. But part of our challenge is how do we market this? So we decided to start a golf radio show and use some of our marketing time on the show to talk about our different golf stores because we had 7 stores up and down California at the time. So we were using the advertising time to talk about our golf stores, and the radio show became a hit, like way more popular than the golf stores and way more profitable than the golf stores.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
kind of sold off the stores and just focused on the golf radio show, which was so much fun. I mean, you're inside the ropes at every golf tournament. Golf companies were sending you their clubs to try out and
Nice.
talk about on the show. Golf courses were giving you free rounds of golf to go talk about on the show. I mean, it was for a golfer, it was like working at Disneyland. It was so cool,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Well, plus you got great at golf. So, there was that
The
too.
funny thing about being in the golf industry is you play less golf than you think you're going to play.
Oh, gotcha.
When you go into the golf industry, you say, "Oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to get to play golf all the time." But you're working, so you're not playing.
Right. Right.
So that was one reality that you just didn't play as
Mm.
much as I would have liked to. But the perks were, trust me, were amazing. So love that. Then I got into the company that I own right now. That's about 21 years old. Is a marketing company, and I started that. Well, there was one job in between that I worked for a company, and that company sold. And the owner of that company asked me to partner in this company. So that was 21 years ago. So we've had this marketing company for 21 years, and gosh, it's been a ride. I mean, if you think back 21 years, how many things have changed in the world in the
Right.
last 21 years? I mean, you
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about economic changes, pandemics, you name it, right?
Hmm.
9/11
Hmm.
terrorist attacks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happened over the past 21 years that you just have to, as a business owner, figure out how do you proceed, how do you get through those ups and downs that the world is going to throw
Right.
your way.
Yeah. And that happened. That happened with my business too. It was like like I ran it through the mid '90s till I don't know 2009 or so. I think I sold it, and it was like that 20-year span. There were so many things that hit. Like for instance, like 9/11. Like 9/11. Um, uh, and the recession after that like killed my corporate business. Like there was
Yeah.
there was nothing happening. But the 9/11 actually caused a big boom in weddings. So the recession hurt my corporate side, but 9/11 there were so many more weddings. I guess people just thought, oh, who knows what's going to happen? Let's get
Let's get
married.
married.
I did so many weddings that next year, and it was it was crazy. And I just
Huh.
remember like doing the first party after 9/11. Like we had something scheduled like a week later. It was like the 18th or something like that, and I'm doing a gig, and I just it was so awkward and so weird, and I tried to
Hmm.
make it not, like we're dancing, we're partying, and like the world is a mess right now, and
Like, how soon after 9/11 was that function?
a week,
A
week and
week.
a half,
So it's like,
yeah,
are we allowed to have fun yet? Right?
exactly, yeah, yeah, and I remember like kind of like saying like I was just like, hey, you know what, uh, this event was planned prior to everything that happened, obviously, right? Like we've all been through a lot, and like let's use tonight as a little stress reliever. Like let's
Yeah.
just have some fun and do what we can. Like
Well, you
and
handled that well.
it
Because
worked
if
out
I
well.
remember
Yeah,
correctly, most
it was rough.
entertainment kind of shut down for a while. I mean, I remember sporting events shut down.
Yeah.
Some amusement parks shut down because they were afraid that they were going to get attacked, that they were a target.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff shut
Yeah.
down.
Well, I remember. So I was working in radio as well at the time. I was. I didn't know what I was going to have to do. Like, am I going to have to go in to the radio station? Do I stay home? Like, what do I do? I was doing radio sales at the time, so but it was kind of an all hands on deck kind of time where they needed people out on the street, like reporter type thing. Like, am I going to have to do something? Like, and I didn't want to. Like, that was like I didn't want to do anything. Like, I just want to sit at home and watch the
Right.
TV and just be upset by this whole thing. But yeah, I remember like so that first time driving in, uh, uh, there was a car fire on the Bay Bridge, like right at the end of the Bay Bridge. Everybody was freaking out, like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? Like, so there was all these like
Is
little
this
like
another attack? Something happened.
exactly. Like, you just thought everything. So it was really for a while. It was awkward having to do parties. Like so it was so weird. Like I mean, I didn't feel like it obviously
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm paid to do this, so I got to figure it out.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we got through one question, Greg. So
we're
we're,
we're
we're
rolling. We're rolling. But we got
we're
stories to
doing
tell. That's what's wonderful about this. We got stories.
exactly. We got stories, and we got more stories to tell, and we got more questions. I promise, I'm not gonna, you know, take forever to answer the next one. Okay, maybe I will, but we'll see. This is a great promo. See if I talk too much as we come back.
The answer is yes.
Thanks for listening and subscribing to DIY for Business, a part of the Best Business Network and Electrocast Media. Check out our website at DIYforbusinesspodcast.com, and there's a contact form where you can ask us questions like some of the ones that we are covering tonight. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to get back to you if you reach out to us on Twitter. Greg is fantastic at that. Also at LinkedIn. Greg basically does all that work. I just hear about it afterwards. He's like, "Oh, I talked to this
And
guy."
trust me, I don't bite. So you can say
Exactly,
anything you want, good, bad, ugly. I don't care.
exactly. We'll take the complaints and the compliments. We'll take
Yeah.
them
The
both.
worst the worst thing is silence. So please don't be
Exactly.
silent. Let us hear it.
And you know what? Actually, that goes to a question that I got, and this one's kind of an interesting one. Okay, so this is about uh, a toxic work environment. Okay,
Mm,
so
okay.
the question here is actually um, there's basically a manager, team members, like the owner of the company's hearing yelling, like they're yelling at each other in this room. The owner doesn't know what to do. Like, where does the owner step in when he's hearing like this toxic work environment? Like, not I kind of want to avoid the HR aspect of this in a way, because
Okay.
there is that, right, and we're
Right.
not HR,
Right.
like pros on this. So I think kind of learning from this as far as like, what would you do as a leader to try to bring up that spirit and kind of help this situation?
So even though I am not an HR pro, I did get my degree in college in human resources.
I know.
So I'm not a
You
pro,
did,
but I have a little experience there.
but you
It's a
played one
really
on
good
the
question. It's a
podcast.
really good question because I think you have to understand what is really going on. Is this something that they're heated, but it's a productive argument, or are they just mad and they're just
Right.
screaming at each other and they've lost their temper? If it's evaluated and you're perceiving it like they just lost their temper, I think you jump in. I think you gotta calm the tempers down. I think it's disruptive to the rest of the rest of the team that's hearing this. Obviously, I'm assuming maybe it's in an office or it's in an area that, again, other people can hear it, so it's got to be disruptive. And I think that is when a leader should jump in if it's getting in the way of the productivity of the rest of the company.
Hmm.
That needs to be done. And I think if you I've identified that if it's getting personal in any way,
Right.
absolutely jump in. You can't allow any type of work arguments to get to a personal level where they're trying to just hurt each other's feelings because they're angry or they're bringing up stuff that maybe they know in their personal lives. All of those are just out of bounds. and a leader should jump in and stop those situations and try to mediate it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's a valid conversation that turned into an argument. Let's get back to what that discussion should have been about, and let's figure out how to have a productive conversation about that.
Yeah. I feel like what happens in those in meetings happens to customers as well, happens to clients. Like, and you're like, it's almost like you don't want to have that be okay inside the office because then it's going to be okay inside, your client's office. And that's not good. Like, you don't want to have that type of feeling like it, or that type of, it's toxic, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's not
I
good.
mean, you don't want your corporate environment to have that type of vibe, right? And allow it to get to that vocal of a situation. And, if it happens once, well, you can stop it. But if it happens twice and you haven't stopped it, it's going to happen again.
Right.
It's
Right.
going to keep happening. And that's unfortunate. And that's why good leaders will kind of, even though it's uncomfortable and it's difficult, you need to step in.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, we've done a lot of shows on leadership, and there's podcasts within the Best Business Network on leadership. It's not always easy. I mean, I remember the first time I had to talk to an employee about something, and I've told the story before, but I went and got a book and I read the book the night before because I wanted to prep myself for it, because we don't, this is not what you learn. You just learn by doing it, in many ways, right? Like, so at least most of us do, right? We've covered that in various podcasts where we're just learning by doing. But uh, if this is something that you feel like this is not like within your expertise, hire somebody, even a contractor. Like, you can hire consultants to come in to help you with this stuff. Like, get to the bottom of it and figure it out, because I think that's healthier for your business in the long term. Keeps people happier.
Absolutely.
Keep people happier, they're going to stay, and keep morale up. There you go.
Right.
Like, it's
Right.
a good thing for everyone. Uh, I've got a couple, but I know you've got some questions, Greg. So what are some of the other questions that you received?
Well, I have a bunch of them. This may be like a 4 episode uh, show
Exactly.
here,
This is going
but
to be the rest of the podcast, the whole season.
what this actually came from Germany. Okay, so
Ah,
yeah,
yes.
so this came
I've
from
seen
Germany.
listens in Germany. This is awesome. Is it in English though, or are you going
Well,
to?
yes, it actually is in English. Thank
Okay,
goodness,
good.
otherwise I wouldn't be reading it because
Okay, or else, yeah.
I'm bad at German. Uh,
I haven't had German since high school. It's
this one's a fun one. What's your greatest achievement, work achievement?
oof, greatest work achievement.
Can I start?
Well, yeah. Why don't you start? Because I'm going to need to think
I'm
about
going to
that one.
start because it actually goes to something you just said. Um, so my greatest work achievement is I mentioned earlier that the company I have right now is like 21 years old. And my greatest work achievement is like having a 21-year-old company, because it's really, really difficult to have that type of longevity. And all the companies that have been around that long or much longer, kudos to all of you. I mean, that is something to be proud of. And I'm especially proud of that. And the part that I think has allowed me to get to that point is the team members that we've been able to keep and really grow. We have some people that started off as a receptionist and has grown into one of our managers. Most, if not all, of our managers have been with the company for over a decade. And I think it goes back to, that corporate culture. Like, people want to be there. They have fun. They enjoy each other. They are proud of what we're producing. And to create that culture and be able to maintain it and continue it is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've, still doing it, and, I plan to do it for much longer, is something that I'm most proud of.
You know, I think I'm going to go with uh, picking up the skill of adaptability, like being able to really adapt to like stuff that's thrown at me. Like,
Uh-huh.
I feel like I've gotten a lot better at that. And that happened through running my business. We're in the beginning of it. Like, how,
Okay, Russ. Is it
yeah.
due to improv? Are you going improv
Oh,
here?
I could on that, but no. I think it predates the current incarnation of improv that I've been working with over the last 10 years or so. But this goes back to like actually like what we were talking about earlier, like 9/11. How do you adapt to that, right? Like, what's going to happen to you? How do you run an entertainment company when that happens, right? Like, figuring out how to adapt to that, and kind of being agile in your thinking and agile, like coming up with these different approaches to things. I feel like that's something that I don't know if I was great at when I first started running my business, and I had to
Mhm.
learn and pick that up. So I'm going to say that's a big achievement because I really didn't expect it, and now I utilize it with just about everything. Like, from whatever it is, you throw something at me, I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
I'll figure out a way to make this work, and that can be a market situation or just some new skill
I
or
think
whatever it
I
is.
think you have that ability, like, we'll figure it out, but you also, like you said earlier, is like you'll get help. Like, you
Exactly.
don't always take it on
Right.
yourself and
I
say,
know.
"Oh, yeah,
I
it's up to me
definitely.
to figure it out." It's like, well, it's up to
Hmm.
me to, like, to make the decision to f get help to figure it out. Or is it
Yeah.
something I can handle? Or, how do I delegate it? There's a lot of what we've talked about in past episodes that really go to being that strong leader. It's like sometimes it's you, and you can be adaptable and fluid and figure it out,
Totally.
and other times realization is I need help with this, and I'm
Exactly.
not too
Yeah.
proud to go get help, right? It's the best
Yeah.
decision for my company.
Right. Yeah. And you like, it's almost like I did an episode of my other podcast, Learning More, available now, wherever you get your podcast. Now, I did an episode of that on quitting, right? Like, and it was kind of an interesting topic. I actually had somebody approach me with this one to like, I want to be a guest on your show. Like, okay, come on. Like, what are we going to talk about? Quitting. And it was so interesting to have that as a topic because it's so hard, and people generally feel like quitting is giving up. It's not. It's okay to quit, and it's okay to say that you can't figure something out. It's okay. Like, the whole pride thing of I've got to do everything myself, and I've got all that does is create blockers in your business, right?
Right.
Like, it's okay to say you can't do something, and yeah, kind of know when to say when. I guess is the
Yeah. The only thing
what you
about
need to
quitting
do.
though is I have an aversion to allowing people to have an easy way out by quitting. You shouldn't quit just because it's the
Right,
easy way out and then it becomes a habit to always quit things. I don't like
right,
that.
right,
But if
right.
you have a valid reason why you're quitting, then absolutely, you need to know when to quit.
See, and this is why, Greg, you got to listen to this episode.
I need to
no,
learn something about quitting, huh?
we actually talk about, like, okay, quitting when it's easy is that's no achievement. Like, that's probably a bad thing in many ways.
Right.
Quitting when it's hard, that's what we were talking about. Was quitting when it's difficult to walk away from something. So it's like, what do I do? Is it better on the other side? Like, and actually, that leads to my next question. Look at that segue.
Oh, we have time for another question? Okay.
We're gonna do, this is a quick one. I
Okay.
think, and
Okay.
it just blends so well with what we're talking about. Is at what I'm going to just shorten this here, but basically the gist of the question is, uh, taking when do you know when it's no longer a side hustle, and when it becomes an actual business that it no longer needs to be your side hustle. Is it about the money? No, I don't know. It
Uh,
is partially.
yeah, it is. It's actually not that easy of a question because like the first story I told about, having the consulting business, it was a side hustle. But then I got offered, the opportunity of making that a full-time position.
Hmm.
So I, I guess it comes down to, holistically, is it right for you at that time of your life? You mentioned the finance side. Obviously, if you can't make a living with the side hustle, then it's probably needs to just stay a side hustle. It can't be your only form of income. But it also needs to fit if that's the right thing for you in your life, because we always talk about work-life balance, right? And if doing a side hustle and your full-time job is taking away from your family or your personal life too much, and just a side hustle would be the perfect fit for that time of your life, then I could see that being, no longer just a side hustle and be the full-time thing. So I think it's a lot of things that kind of fit at the right time. You know
Yeah.
how universe sends things your way and you just kind of figure out the timing, there's always a new door opening. And, the side hustle sometimes is the new door opening to your future.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think it's 100% gut. you know,
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Yeah. It's the money and whatnot, but you've got to make that gut. Like you could have, like, I had months where it was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm making more doing my, side hustle than I'm doing my day job. Like, this is great. This is fantastic. Is it going to continue though? I had to kind of go with my gut a little bit because I didn't know what I was going to be able to sell going forward.
Hmm.
So what I did, I set myself deadlines of like, okay, in 6 months, I got to have this much money in the bank, and I've got to, like be able to pay my rent, and I've got to, like
Yeah.
I've got to have like, so I would benchmark myself, and I
So
blew through
I,
the deadlines.
I will say though, when you're in fourth grade and you're going to school and your side hustle is doing bookmarks, don't make the side hustle your full-time job. I think you need to stay in school. All fourth graders out there, please stay in school.
Yes.
You
We
can
don't want to get
scale
mad
like
at
Russ
guys.
did, but you need to stay in school.
I don't know. I'm thinking of going back to that bookmark business. I think it would be kind of fun. All right, so okay, we got a couple of the questions out there. We got like what 4 or 5 questions. I think we did well.
We're going to come back to more because we do have a bunch more. And thank you everybody for sending those in. Please keep sending them in. As Russ said, the interesting thing, Russ, is I'm seeing a nice bump in subscriptions to our show. I
Beautiful.
see a lot of new ratings to our show. Thank you everybody for doing that. Please keep it up. If you haven't done it already, we greatly appreciate it.
Exactly, and you can listen to this wherever you get your podcast. So like that means you can also rate it and subscribe to it wherever you're listening right now. Just there's some button on your screen right now that you press to do one of those two things, and it would help us out.
5 stars.
Oh, we got to do a show on subliminal messages. That would be fun. All right. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and reviewing DIY for Business, a part of the Best Business Network and Electrocast Media. The subjects that we cover on the podcast are selected with the goal of helping your business grow. All of the information provided is opinion-based, and you might want to consult a professional to discuss your exact business situation. Greg and I want your company to succeed, and as you can tell by this episode, we're happy to take your questions. We'd also love to hear your suggestions for future episodes. Do so by heading over to DIYforBusinessPodcast.com. We thank you again for listening and subscribing to DIY for Business, where you are not alone.
Leadership, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starfleet Leadership Academy, its ongoing mission to develop leaders through Star Trek, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. A leadership development podcast told through the lens of Star Trek, the Starfleet Leadership Academy.
Electrocast. Hi, I'm Sherilyn Fenn from Twin Peaks. What did you do on your last Saturday night? It's a new scripted podcast series that starts right at the beginning of lockdown, when a single mother and out-of-work writer named Gigi realizes that everything is about to change.
Did you hear something?
Toilet paper.
People are hoarding it. I should have done that.
The Last Saturday Night, an Electrocast podcast. You'll love it.
Available to stream now on all podcast platforms.
Electrocast. Electrocast.